All right, everybody. Cinephile Mike is here, and we are in week 2 of Double Oscar Rewind. Hopefully, you are finding ways to beat the heat with some of these discoveries, these films I'm sharing. Today, for day 32, I'm going to wrap my series on the directors, closing out the theme we would have finished back in June. As you may know, here on Oscar Rewind, I revisit the films that reflect the past work of this year's Oscar nominees and winners. I dig deep into those IMDb profiles, and my hope is that you will discover a new older favorite, or maybe revisit something you haven't seen in a while. As always, I'll be discussing the Oscar connection, the awards history for the film, box office information, critical response, and as always, these reviews are, say it with me, spoiler free. Before we jump in, please do me a favor, click that subscribe button. You definitely don't want to miss any of the good stuff coming up on Oscar Rewind, and some other fun video content coming soon. So today I'm wrapping up, as I said, our Directors Month theme. Even though it's wrapping July, this was June's theme. Today I'm looking at Screen Australia's Mary and Max. Written and directed by Adam Elliot, the film was released internationally in several markets between the spring of 2009 and the spring of 2011, making a total of $1,740,625. Then, most likely due to its Oscar connection this year, I'll get there in a moment, it did have a small re-release in 2024 in the international market, making an additional $166, thereby showing a worldwide take of $1,740,791. Critically, like yesterday, this film was well received on both sides, with a 96% critical rating coming from 67 reviews and a slightly lower 92% popcorn meter culled from over 25,000 audience reviews. Now, award season-wise, Mary and Max won the Best Feature Prize at the Annecy International Animated Film Festival, a special mention Best Feature Film Prize at the Berlin International Film Festival, Best Animated Feature Film at the Asia Pacific Screen Awards, as well as 2 wins for writer-director Adam Elliot for the Grand Prize at the Ottawa International Animation Festival, and a Best Director Prize from the Australian Directors Guild, as well as several other nods and wins along the way. So, how does this claymation film land on Rewind this season? It's for Adam Elliot, an Oscar winner for the 2004 Best Animated Short Harvey Crumpet, who 20 years later was nominated for Best Animated Feature Film alongside Liz Kearney for Memoir of a Snail. A powerful film that was part of the really strong 5 animated feature films this year. You can find my 4-star review of Memoir of a Snail on the Awards Review Season 3 playlist here on the channel. But let's get into Mary and Max. It's 1976, and we meet Mary Daisy Dinkle, voiced by Bethany Whitmore as a child or young Mary and Toni Collette as an adult. But when we first meet her in 76, she's an 8-year-old girl growing up in Australia, very unpopular, feeling cursed because she has a birthmark on her forehead that looks like poo and eyes that look like muddy puddles. She's just lonely. Constantly bullied at school, having no friends. She dreams of marrying Earl Grey, named for her favorite tea, and living in a castle in Scotland with 9 children. Her father is always working at the tea factory or engaging in his taxidermy, and her mother spends her time drinking tea for adults, also known as sherry, and goes day to day as a kleptomaniac, stating that, she puts things up her skirt because she forgot the bags at home. Now, Mary has her best friend, a rooster named Ethel. She enjoys her favorite snack of sweetened condensed milk and has a makeshift Noblet collection of figurines that she has made. Her favorite show is the Noblets. It's kind of like a variant of the Smurfs. And one day, while out with her mother, she spots a New York City phone book, studies the, to her, comical American names, and chooses one at random, Max Jerry Horowitz, and decides to send him a letter introducing herself, sending a picture, asking some life questions she feels she needs answers to. And look, she's looking for a friend. And then this introduces us to Max, voiced by Philip Seymour Hoffman, who is an overweight Jewish atheist who suffers various psychological and emotional problems, keeping him from forging any kind of relationship. And as we learn along with him, he does get diagnosed with what we now in 2025 referred to as ASD, autism spectrum disorder. This film came out in 2009 when we were still primarily referring to it as Asperger's, this diagnosis changing in around 2013, according to my research. So that is Max's issue. So he primarily remains home unless he has to go to a doctor's appointment or his Overeaters Anonymous meetings, enjoys his favorite food, chocolate hot dogs, and also, like Mary, likes the Noblets, but he has the actual figurines in his collection, and enjoys the rotating company of his goldfish. They aren't always long for this world, but throughout the film, we meet Henry VIII, Henry IX, and the 10th. He receives her letter. At first, he's not quite sure what to do, and there's a little bit, as a result of his illness, some of the things he finds are a little bit triggering in her letter, but eventually he decides to respond, and the two strike up a pen pal relationship. And as we follow the remaining events and the corresponding years, we see the ups and the downs that these two go through in their own lives on opposite sides of the Pacific Ocean. Now, as we saw in last year's Memoir of a Snail, Adam Elliot uses elements from his own life to craft his stories, and many of them are based on true events. So this film was based on a 20-year relationship he had with a pen pal in New York, with a Jewish man in New York. He really wants to explore what makes us tick. And in Mary and Max, he creates two lost souls who want nothing more than to really just have a human connection. It's a fascinating look at the journey we go on. It isn't easy to connect. And sometimes even when we think we found it, there are so many challenges that, go unsaid and things can be misinterpreted. They say it's always sometimes better to have a conversation because a text message or an email can be misinterpreted. It's interesting. In Mary and Max, we have them communicate solely through the letters, not even the phone. There's no email yet. The film chronicles 1976 to about the early 1990s. So we're and we learn the dates documented through some tragic life events, and it helps create that divide and 80% of the film is actually done in narration by voiceovers of the actors playing Mary and Max reading their letters. And while the letters are being read, we see some of the events happening. We get treated to a lot of narration by our humble narrator, voiced by Barry Humphries, who there was something about his tone that, kind of reminded me of Sebastian Cabot narrating the Winnie the Pooh shorts from the 1960s and 70s. Blustery Day, Tigger 2, like that wholesome voice telling this tragic tale. And other than that, we have some minimal dialogue from a few other characters, including Mary's husband-to-be Damien, voiced by Eric Bana, and some interjections from Mary's mother Vera, voiced by Renee Geyer. But the majority is action and voiceover. And in all of this, Elliot really doesn't shy away from discussing some of the various topics that lead to and result from Mary and Max's different, conditions, including compulsive overeating, alcoholism, drug abuse, neglect, and unfortunately still sometimes the under-discussed topic of mental illness and recovery. But Elliot seeks to address these things in a fair way, and in this film, he does it successfully. While he wants the audience to both sympathize and empathize with his characters, he doesn't make them entirely faultless martyrs. Each makes decisions that have negative ramifications, and as we follow them and wonder how this is going to play out, so you really get gripped over the course of this 90 minutes, wondering if these two lost souls, despite their almost 40-year age gap, will ever actually connect. The voice cast is excellent, and given the content, you could almost look away from the screen, with the letters and listen to it as an audio treat. Elliot's writing is that strong. However, you do want to watch because he fills the screen with really clever sight gags and images that just further develops the story that we're listening to. And that seems to be a staple of Elliot's work that I've seen. And I will say, you may want to watch this one twice, like I did with Memoir of a Snail with this, because you sometimes can pull so much more of the imagery from the second view. There's almost something like a Wes Anderson quality in some of these images and backdrops that are set with props and labels and posters. And in this one, Memoir of a Snail is pretty much this grayscale, brown scale color scheme. This one, he plays a little bit more with color at certain moments, and as things transition, it really helps give a fascinating look at the study of human psychology. So, was his Oscar nod worthy this year? Absolutely. As he did with Memoir of a Snail, Elliot proves to be a very powerful filmmaker with a strong voice, a keen eye. The claymation is a great way to communicate this. Mary and Max, for me, is a solid 4-star film. If you would like to, catch this one or rewatch it, you do have some options. As of this recording and posting, the film is currently streaming on AMC Plus as well as Hulu. All right, so there you have it. This has been a solid director collection. Actually, all 8 films in this set have been 4 and 5-star films. Not really a weak one in the bunch. Let's see now if we, in July's theme, which is going to carry us into August, there's 9 films coming up looking at the writers. Let's see if those are going to hold up as well. As always, if you like what you heard here, please click that button, subscribe to the channel, like and share the video, spread the word. You can follow me, Cinephile Mike, on all social media platforms and on Letterboxd. Find lots of great additional content on my website, cinephilemike.com. All right, happy watching, everyone, and until next time, this is Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.